Okay, an update on the Trump assassination. I'll preface the whole thing by saying that I have no life. All I do is sit around all day surfing the internet and learning stuff. So I'm in kind of a quasi-unique position to be able to garner enough information and compile it and then maybe pass it on to you, the viewer. So that's what I'm doing. This is an update over the previous one I did. Now, as you may or may not be aware, the head of the Secret Service said that they didn't have anybody positioned on the building where the sniper was because it was too slopey. However, you can take a look here. Here are the Secret Service snipers, and then there's the building where the shooter was killed. It's not any more sloped than the one that those guys were on. Also, it's come out that a policeman was assigned to be standing on that roof, but for whatever reason, he wasn't there. That's highly suspicious to me. The policeman just happens to not be in the very place where the shooter, goes. Also, the security team covering Trump's protection was brand new. The usual security team that guarded him had been sent home to rest, and they had a whole new team in there. No one knew who they were, and I would assume they probably hadn't even worked together, which automatically will create a Keystone Cops type scenario. Also, there's not any information on the shooter. They say they've gotten into his phone, but they say he has no digital footprint upon which they can base an assumption as to why he did it. No digital footprint, no social media, nothing. Now, you tell me how many teenage kids and young men don't have a social footprint, an internet footprint. You tell me. So anyway, this is looking more fishy all the time. It is. Now, if you've watched any of my conspiracy videos, you will know that I always say follow the money. The money is where the rubber meets the road, folks. And we can see that if we do that, we're going to look at something pretty suspicious. What happened with Trump's Truth Social reminds me a lot of those two airlines just before 9/11. People were shorting the airlines like nobody's business in anticipation of making money when the stock went down. And it went down and they made a ton of money. Also, before the Las Vegas massacre, the executives of the Mandalay Bay Hotel sold all their personal stock. They sold all their stock, the value plummeted, and then they bought it back for pennies on the dollar. So right there, it looks suspicious. And in this instance, somebody was buying up Truth Social in the week prior to the event to short the stock. They were taking out shorts on Truth Social stock in anticipation that the stock price would plummet, which it would have done if Trump had been killed. So right there, you've got some real evidence to suggest that there's some fuckery-muckery going on. This would be comical if it weren't real. I'll just read you this. The shooter carried a 12-foot ladder, an AR-15, and 50 rounds. Walked a mile to Trump's rally. So here's a kid. He's got a rifle, and he's dragging a 12-foot ladder, and he walks from the Home Depot a mile to the rally. All right, Thomas Matthew Crooks arrived at the SWAT team rally building. Now, that's the very building that he was on, and the SWAT team is inside the building coordinating all the security. After walking a mile from Home Depot, he extended his ladder and climbed onto the building situated just 130 yards from Trump, armed with his father's AR-15 and 50 rounds of ammunition. How did Crooks know the rooftop would be unguarded? How did he know he wouldn't encounter police coming and going from the building? How did he know the rooftop would offer the perfect vantage point? Oh, but wait, it gets even better. 30 minutes or more before the whole thing, he's walking around with a rangefinder calculating distances. And they saw him. The cops saw him, and they said, keep an eye on this guy. They went down and actually spoke with him and looked at the rangefinder, and they let him go. They said, well, he doesn't have a gun. We'll just let him go. And then, of course, they lost track of him in the crowd. Now, I'm sorry, but, perfect storms in life do happen. But this is just a little too perfect, folks. Assuming that these facts that I'm relating are correct, this is just super suspicious. Now, this is kind of an exclusive story coming from a channel called Redacted. And this guy, he got some information through anonymous sources who told him this and that. So take it with a grain of salt. However, whoever does these sort of things calculated that the distance the bullet traveled was about 500 yards. Now, the shooter, Crook, he was 130 yards away, so something's fishy right there, assuming that's correct, of course. But you can look at this map and you can trace this path past Crooks's location to a building back here, which is 500 yards from the event. On Saturday, it was closed. It was an empty building. The Butler Gymnastics Club. It gave a perfect line of sight up to Trump, and it was 500 yards from Trump's location. So assuming that this guy, Clayton Morris, is correct, we've got some more questions. Let's just see what old Mr. Morris has to say.
Anyway, yesterday, I reported here on the show privately that sources were telling me that Secret Service identified the bullets being fired, which came from about 488 yards away. Yards. Not feet, yards. Okay, approximately 488 yards, not feet. Yesterday, another source brought me some great information showing that the Butler Gymnastics Club is precisely that same distance away, about 488 yards away. Here you can take a look at Google Maps and you can see this is the Butler Gymnastics Center, okay, much further than we've been talking about in this line of sight. Now look at these windows, look at the roof line. This is all from a vantage point facing the stage where President Trump was located, okay? And we'll just sort of spin this around here so you can just get a sense of the depth here as we go towards the fairgrounds where President Trump was speaking. Now, same line of sight. So thanks for the tip, by the way. I'm sure you're watching right now. Thank you for this tip. So Butler Gymnastics, I want to take a look now at a map that we put together just so you get an understanding of the line of sight. The Trump stage, Thomas Crook's roof location, and Butler Gymnastics Club, line of sight. Straight line. And now let's just plug in the distance to confirm this, in which I did, using latitude and longitude and using the distance calculator to identify the distance on this location, from this location. And very simple to do. Once you have the actual coordinates, plug in the coordinates between Butler Gymnastics Club. And we're not saying, by the way, that anything happened there. We don't know. But that is a perfect line of sight. And here's the distance then to the stage. You're able to place this right here and then calculate the distance from the Butler Gymnastics Club across that field right to the stage at the fairgrounds where President Trump was speaking. And as you can see, the distance there right above it is about 0.2885 of a mile, which is about almost exactly 500 yards, roughly, give or take a few yards, depending on where, if there was a shooter in that location, where those yards would have, could have been 490, 495, something like that. So, more information. We contacted the Butler Gymnastics Club today, waiting for a response from them, because right now they're closed for the summer on Saturdays. So that location is closed for the summer on Saturdays, meaning it was a vacant building, no one there to attract attention to on Saturday. when President Trump was there giving a speech.
Now, I've done some videos, a few videos about assassinations. Kennedy, both the Kennedys, Martin Luther King, and all the experts I see talking about assassinations will tell you that killing the guy is not the toughest part. The toughest part's getting away. So the scenario that's evolving in my mind, assuming that all these facts are correct, and that's an assumption, Mr. Crooks was a decoy, possibly. They got that kid and put him up there on that building knowing he'd get shot. And with all the attention directed toward him, it would afford the other shooters a chance to escape unnoticed. That's the impression I'm getting here. And I'll say it again, assuming that these facts are all correct. You know, it's a fluid situation. This is an update video. Things may change, but that's the vibe I'm getting from this whole thing. And now Mr. Morris is talking about the actual location of the kid's body vis-a-vis the snipers. The yellow there, that's where his body was, right there. That's where they shot him. And then these two are where the Secret Service snipers were located. Let's just see what Mr. Morris has to say about that.
So just to paint a picture here, the Crooks rooftop was only 150 yards away where Thomas Crooks' body was found. Crooks was killed many feet away from the edge of the building, by the way. He was not on the edge of the building, which means he was laying prone up the slope, which makes no sense. He was at the bottom part of that slope facing upward. And as the New York Times shows here in this photo, you can clearly see where his body in the upper left-hand part of your screen was located. Further down when he was shot, further down the slope, facing towards the stage, which makes no sense. So if he was laying prone, which he was, he would have been facing up a slope about another 10 to 15 feet before you even reached the peak of that building. Here's another photo vantage point where they're standing over his body, facing upwards on the slope. Go ahead, David.
I was just going to point out, if you go back to that other photo, Philip, the previous one, that it confused me too. It's the top left circle.
Yeah.
Because I was looking there with all the other circles and I couldn't figure out. So it's the top left circle over there.
Yeah, upper left-hand corner of your screen is where his body was found. The other circles that you're seeing by the American flag are snipers. Those are Secret Service snipers there. The upper left-hand part of your screen is where Thomas's body was found. Now, he would have been firing up a slope, which makes no sense, right? He wasn't at the peak of the building. He was further way down towards the end of that roof line. Just again, let's go back to the line of sight here from this photo from a viewer who was there and snapped this photo right moments before the president was shot. You can see, again, sloped up from the back side of that.
From the pinnacle down to the left.
Down to the left and behind.
Away from the president and behind.
Behind.
Right.
So
why are you saying, I'm sorry, this is a dumb question because I've never planned to shoot anybody. Why are you saying you wouldn't go on the backside of that slope and maybe use that as cover for your own body?
Well, because I'm making a really awkward hand signal there, so please forgive me. But if you're going
make
up
a fist when you do that.
yeah, exactly. If you're going up a slope and you're way down at the bottom of that slope, and the president is on the other side of that peak down here, how are you going to shoot him through the slope? I mean, again, I haven't had a chance to go on that building myself.
Right, because you can't shoot through the apex of the triangle.
Exactly.
I understand
and I should be very clear, it's not a huge slope. I haven't been on that rooftop to confirm that. But even if that piece doesn't care much to you at all, okay, maybe just throw that piece out. Okay, throw that piece out.
And I was going to say,
okay,
go ahead.
Well, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, is it possible that he was at the peak and peaking right over the peak, and then the impact of the bullet slid him back?
That's what I was going to ask.
It's possible.
Right.
But every video we see, he's right at the base of that roof line when they're pointing him out. And then, of course, so I don't know. I guess he could have been hit in the head and somehow slid all the way down.
Okay. The Secret Service snipers were using .308 ammunition, which is A lot more powerful than a piddly little AR-15. And if he were hit in the head, it could have knocked him back. One thing, though, that confuses me is, an AR has a clip, a magazine that extends about a foot beneath it. So if you're going to shoot the dang thing, you're going to have to hold the weapon high enough to clear the roof. So this seems kind of awkward to me. However, I don't know. But let's continue. Next is the water tower. Now, this is something I haven't heard anyone mention other than Mr. Morris here. But there you can see it. There's a water tower. It gives perfect field of view right down to where Trump was. I don't think the shot could have come from the water tower because the angle wouldn't have been really right. However, no one's mentioned whether or not anyone was up on the water tower. If anyone was up on that water tower, they would have been able to have seen Crooks easily. I mean, think about that. But as you'll see in this video, apparently, according to some eyewitnesses, there were some people on the water tower.
Now have 3 separate eyewitnesses who have now confirmed moments after the shooting they saw shots being fired from another location, not that roof. The water tower direction, in the same line of sight as the Butler Gymnastics location that we showed earlier. Further distance away, not from that roof line. And we need to find out what they saw, and can we confirm that was there anyone on that water tower or not? So multiple now eyewitnesses saying that they saw shooters from another location, bullets fired from the water tower. Watch.
Hit the ground, and he kept standing. I was like, you got to get down, boy. You got to get down. They're going to shoot you. Because if they would have had like a machine gun, they could have taken us all out. So then we laid there for a while. We saw different places where the gunshots were at. And then they got President Trump down, Secret Service did, and they took him out of there and got him off of the stage. And he was bleeding. And so then my son and daughter-in-law was back behind us, back behind the fence. And we was worried about them. We couldn't call them. And so we started trying to go after them then when they finally let us up. And they had been right by the fence where the other shooter was. There was one I heard in the water tower. There was one by the fence.
And still, obviously, initial reports. But what we do...
One by the water tower.
Exactly. So that's just one eyewitness. Here's another eyewitness witnessing the water tower. Watch.
Sharpshooter shot to the left. He killed the gentleman in the water tower here. Now, when I called my husband at home, who's watching TV, he said, I thought Trump hurt his ear when he went to the ground. But he said, no, on TV they showed before Trump hit the ground, the ear was bleeding. So that sharpshooter went across, Trump turned his head, his ear must have been nipped, and it killed somebody in the stands over to the left.
Could you see anyone injured besides the blood on the former president?
All I saw was the gentleman from Beaver County who spoke earlier in the day, who was running for the State House Representative, Elmore, I know his name. He had a white shirt on, and I saw him come from that left stands where the people were mostly shot. I think there were several. They said 3 medevacs left here. Blood was down the right side of his... He wasn't shot, but you could see that he was next to somebody who must have been bleeding profusely because he either helped them and ran, rubbed against them or tried to get them help or something. It was covered. So I knew that he was near somebody. That was my first indication that somebody was actually shot when I saw his blood on his shirt.
Aaron, when did you realize that, hey, this might not be fireworks, this might be something else?
When they got Trump down on the ground. And then we were just so concerned that he wasn't hit because we couldn't. It happened so fast. It's really hard to process it. I guess if you have it on your camera to see the exact minute, you can tell. But when he got up, he did not look bad at all. What I've heard coming out here is now they feel that there was 2 shooters on both sides. So they got the one on the tower on this side, but the one on the right side...
Okay, so as I said earlier, the scenario which is congealing in my mind is that of the young man being used as a decoy to facilitate the escape of the others, assuming that, of course, these facts are correct. And also, there was a guy on CNN, a congressman who'd been a sniper, talking about how it might be deliberate. And the anchor lady, the presenter, she just immediately jumped to the assumption that he was accusing the Democrats. But folks, there are a lot of people around the world who want to see Trump dead. And not just countries, corporations. Corporations kill people. They do. I once knew a hitman years ago, and he worked for corporations, rubbing people out over corporate blood feuds. And then, of course, there are other nations, too. Iran. Think about it. Ukraine would have a very tangible interest in killing Mr. Trump, wouldn't it? And they've evinced a real proclivity for going into other countries and slaughtering folks. So anyway, that's an update. I thought I'd throw this in. I like doing videos, and this just gave me a chance to make another video and put it up.